I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, trying to piece together everything that's happened over the past few months. My name's Jake, and I was married to Lisa for about 6 years now. We seemed like a pretty normal couple, at least on the surface. She was fiery, bitchy when she wanted to be, but she was also clever and charming, the kind of woman guys like me got blindsided by. I always thought we had a good thing going, fun, lively, and full of shared dreams. But lately, I'd been feeling like something was off, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It started subtly. Small things. She'd be more secretive with her phone, locking it more often, even when she was just in the bathroom or out of sight. She'd get defensive if I asked about her day, shrugging it off with some snide comment or a fake laugh. At first, I figured she was just stressed, maybe work was piling up or she was tired. But then the little things kept stacking up. The sudden late nights, the unexplained absences, her getting weirdly defensive about her schedule. I'd catch her lying about where she was or what she was doing, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. One day, I noticed a strange smell when I came home early from work. It was faint, but it was definitely there, a kind of citrus mixed with something else. At first, I thought maybe she'd been cooking something, but then I remembered she hated citrus. That was odd. I decided to check her phone just in case because I'd been feeling suspicious. I wasn't snooping, I was just looking for clues. Call it paranoia, or maybe I knew deep down that something wasn't right. When I unlocked her phone, I was greeted with a flood of messages, texts, photos, and calendar entries I'd never seen before. The more I scrolled, the more my stomach sank. There were messages with someone named Alex that went way beyond friendly banter. Flirty, suggestive, downright explicit sometimes. At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of joke or she just lost her mind, but then I found something even more shocking. A set of private photos, images that were clearly taken during her enhancement disclosure sessions. Whatever those were, they weren't just normal photos. They looked like a setup, a custom augmentation designed to maximize physical compatibility with whoever was behind them. The language in the messages was explicit, and the tone told me they'd been doing this for a while. I was stunned. It wasn't just a fling or a one-time thing. This was a full-blown affair, and it was happening during the sessions she was supposed to be doing for work. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? I felt a whirlwind of betrayal, anger, and confusion. It was like my entire world had flipped upside down in a second. I didn't sleep that night, just kept staring at her messages, trying to process what I'd seen. I felt betrayed in a way I never thought possible, especially given how she'd always painted herself as someone who cared about honesty and loyalty. But that was all a lie. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how to even start. The trust was gone, and what hurt most was knowing she'd been lying right to my face, all while secretly playing this sick game with her enhancement counselor. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew I had to face her. The question was how. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was a mess. I couldn't get the images out of my mind, her messages, her photos, the way she'd lied so effortlessly. It was like I'd been punched in the gut repeatedly. I kept thinking about the last few months, the signs I'd ignored, the little red flags I'd brushed aside because I didn't want to believe the worst. Now looking back, it all made sense. Her odd behavior, the secretiveness, the way she'd sometimes snap at me for no reason. It was all connected. I decided I couldn't just sit on this anymore. I needed to confront her, face the music, and get some answers. But I also knew I had to prepare myself for the worst. Whatever came out of her mouth, I was ready for the truth, no matter how ugly. I waited until she was in the shower, giving me a rare window of opportunity to talk to her without interruption. As she stepped into the bathroom, I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and went to the living room to start recording. I wanted her words, her reaction, because I knew she'd lie, deny, and spin stories, but I also wanted proof. When she got out, I called her over and looked her dead in the eyes. I told her I knew everything, that I'd seen her messages, her photos, everything. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer she always put on when she thought she was the smartest person in the room. She immediately started spinning her usual bullshit, saying I'd misunderstood, that it was just work stuff, and that Alex was just a colleague she'd been helping with some project. I didn't buy it. I pressed her harder, asking her what exactly she was doing during those sessions, and whether she'd been lying about her work and her commitments. She rolled her eyes, then threw in the classic line, "Oh, so now you're accusing me of cheating? Really? You're overreacting, Jake. You always do this, blow things out of proportion." The way she said it, like I was the crazy one, made me furious. I told her I had proof, that I knew exactly what she'd been up to and that I was going to sit around pretending everything was fine anymore. Her eyes flashed with anger, and for a moment I thought she was going to deny everything outright, but then she just scoffed and looked away. That's when she started lying again, saying I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood her texts, that it was all some huge mistake. I could feel the rage boiling over inside me. I'd trusted her, believed in our marriage, and now I was faced with the harsh reality that the woman I loved was lying, cheating, and hiding a secret that cut deeper than I could ever explain. I told her I wanted the truth, right then and there. Her face contorted and she snapped back with a bitchy tone. "You're just jealous, Jake. Jealous because I'm better at this than you ever were. Maybe you're the one who's insecure." That's when I realized her lies weren't just about her cheating. They were about her trying to make me feel crazy, small, insignificant. But I wasn't going to let her. That day, I felt like my world was falling apart. I was furious, hurt, and mostly disappointed. I had trusted her for so long, and she'd been hiding this whole other life from me during our marriage. It felt like a punch in the chest every time I thought about the emotional betrayal, the fact that she'd been lying about her sessions, about her work, probably even about us. I kept replaying her words, her dismissiveness, her sneering attitude. It was clear she didn't think she'd done anything wrong, that she'd somehow justified her actions in her own mind. But I knew better. From that moment on, I realized I had a choice. I could keep pretending everything was fine, or I could face the reality that my wife had been unfaithful, not just emotionally but physically and ethically. The betrayal was complete, and honestly, that's when I started planning my next move. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, but I knew I had to act fast. The first step was to gather all the evidence I could, and then decide whether this marriage was worth saving or if I'd be better off walking away. The pain was unbearable, but I knew I couldn't let her see me break. Not yet. That night I couldn't sleep. The adrenaline was still running through me, and every time I closed my eyes, her face would pop up, twisted in that typical sneer she always wore when she thought she was in control. I kept thinking about what's next. I wasn't naive. I knew the kind of woman Lisa was when cornered. She was manipulative, bitchy, and she'd do everything in her power to spin her stories and save her ass. I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just blow everything up without a plan. The next morning, I decided I'd start by gathering more concrete evidence. I needed to know just how deep her deception went, especially regarding these enhancement sessions. I remembered the way she'd always been secretive about her work, always brushing me off when I asked questions. Now I knew she'd been hiding something big. I wanted to understand what those private enhancement disclosures were all about, what kind of augmentations she'd undergone, and how they were designed to maximize physical compatibility with whoever she was cheating with. So I started digging online, trying to find info about this ethical augmentation stuff. What I uncovered was shocking. Turns out, these sessions weren't just about routine enhancement. They were tailored, opaque procedures meant to optimize not just physical features but also compatibility, what they called personalized augmentation for maximum synergy. Basically, they had secret protocols designed to make her physically align with her partner on a level I couldn't even imagine. I felt sick. The idea that she'd willingly undergo some custom enhancement to be more compatible with whoever she was cheating with, it felt like a punch to my gut. I remembered seeing her phone earlier, and I decided to revisit her messages. This time I looked for anything that might give me a clearer picture of her sessions. I found a hidden folder, probably some encrypted app she forgot to delete. Inside, there were detailed notes, diagrams, things I couldn't understand fully, But the language was clinical, cold, almost like a blueprint for some kind of physical upgrade. She'd been doing this for months, maybe longer. The more I read, the more I realized that her enhancements weren't just cosmetic. They were designed specifically for maximum compatibility, probably with her lover. I felt a mix of rage and despair. How could she do this? How could she betray me so blatantly? The woman I loved had been secretly transforming herself, not just physically but ethically, into someone who'd do anything to please her lover, even if it meant lying to my face during her disclosure sessions. And the worst part, it was all hidden behind that stupid, opaque transparency requirement. It was supposed to be about honesty, but what I found was a system designed to keep secrets, to maximize physical convenience at the cost of honesty and integrity. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be prepared. I needed her to explain herself, to face the truth of what she'd done. As much as I wanted to break everything apart right then and there, I also needed to understand her mindset, her motivations. I had to know why she thought this was okay. Was it just about sex? Was it about power? Or was it something darker? I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her messages, trying to brace myself for the inevitable talk that was coming. I didn't want to just walk out and leave her, at least not yet. I wanted answers, real ones, no bullshit, no lies. And I was determined to get them no matter how much it hurt. I looked around the apartment, thinking about everything I'd lost: trust, respect, the woman I thought I knew. I knew this was only the beginning of a long, painful process, but I also knew that I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to face what she'd done head on. The question was, how far was she willing to go to lie her way out of this one? And what was I willing to do to finally get some clarity? The confrontation was inevitable. I knew she'd try to spin her lies again, try to convince me that I was overreacting or that I'd misunderstood everything. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it this time. Not after what I'd uncovered. I called her into the living room, holding her phone and the notes I'd printed out from my research. Her face immediately hardened when she saw the look in my eyes. There was a flicker of recognition, maybe even fear. "Lisa," I started, voice steady but carrying the weight of months of betrayal, "I know what you've been doing. I know about the sessions, the enhancements, the secret plans. Don't bother denying it. I've seen everything. The private notes, the messages, how you've been transforming yourself for someone else." Her eyes narrowed and she scoffed at me, crossing her arms. "Oh, so now you're some kind of expert," she sneered. "You think you've got me figured out? Please. You're just paranoid, Jake. All of this is just your imagination running wild." I shook my head slowly. "No, it's not. I've seen the evidence. You've been lying about your work, about your sessions. And those enhancements, those were specifically designed to make you more compatible with your lover, weren't they? I found the diagrams, the protocols. You've been playing with your own body, changing it for some sick reason." She rolled her eyes, trying to dismiss me. "You don't know what you're talking about. I was just trying to improve myself. You wouldn't understand. You're so insecure. This is about your own shortcomings, not me." I clenched my fists, feeling the rage boil over. "Insecure? No, Lisa, I'm hurt. I'm outraged that you do something like this behind my back. That you've been lying about what you're doing during those sessions, about your work, about us. You've been secretly transforming yourself, not just physically but ethically. And for what? Some guy you met during those damn disclosures. How long has this been going on?" Her face twisted into a snarl. "This doesn't concern you anymore. I don't owe you explanations. I can do whatever I want. If you're so insecure, maybe you're the one who needs to get help." She turned away, but I wasn't done. I stepped closer, voice harder. "You're damn right I'm insecure, but I'm not crazy. I know what your real intentions were. You lied to me, manipulated me with your fake transparency bullshit, and then you went behind my back to cheat and upgrade yourself for some other guy. How long have you been doing this? How many times?" That's when she lost her composure. Her eyes flashed with fury and she spat. "You don't get to accuse me. You're nothing but a jealous idiot. I don't owe you anything. I don't need your permission or your opinions. I'm not the same woman you married. I've changed. You wouldn't understand what that's like, so just shut up." I felt a cold wave hit me. That was her way of trying to shut me down, to dismiss everything I knew and make it seem like I was overreacting, but I'd seen too much. I'd uncovered her lies, her secret enhancements, and her manipulative attitude. I knew she'd been playing me all along, pretending to be the perfect wife while secretly designing herself for someone else. The betrayal cut deep, and her dismissiveness only made it worse. I told her that I needed time to think, that I couldn't just walk away without considering everything. But deep down, I knew there was no coming back from this. Not after everything I'd seen, not after her blatant lies. My mind was racing. Should I stay and try to fix this mess? Or was I better off walking away and cutting my losses? I realized that no matter what I decided, my entire perception of our marriage had been shattered. She'd broken every trust I'd ever had in her, and I didn't think I could ever look at her the same way again. That night, I sat alone in the dark, contemplating my next move, feeling emptier than I ever had before. The days that followed were a blur of intense emotion and difficult decisions. I couldn't stop thinking about everything I'd uncovered, her secret sessions, the enhancements, tailored specifically for her lover, the lies she'd told me to cover it all up. Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger, someone I no longer recognized. The woman I once trusted was gone, replaced by someone who had manipulated her own body and mind for some sick game. The betrayal ran so deep, it was like a wound that wouldn't close. I debated whether I should cut her out entirely or try to salvage whatever was left of our marriage. It was tempting to walk away, to just grab my things and leave, but part of me still wanted answers. I needed to understand why she did this, what drove her to betray me so thoroughly. I also knew I couldn't stay under the same roof. Her lies, her manipulations, her disdain, none of it was something I could live with anymore. One evening, I sat her down again. This time I was more calculated, more cold. I told her I was done pretending, that I wanted the truth, nothing but the truth, and that if she didn't tell me everything, I'd be leaving for good. Her expression was a mixture of defiance and disdain, but I could see the flicker of fear behind her eyes. She tried to play it off, acting like she hadn't done anything wrong, calling me paranoid and insecure again, but I was done with her excuses. She finally cracked a little. She looked away, biting her lip, and then muttered, "It's not what you think. I was just exploring, trying to improve myself, that's all. The enhancements, those were just for me. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing." Her words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them. But I knew better. I knew she was lying again. I pressed her harder, demanding specifics. How long had she been doing this? Who else knew? Was she still doing it? She hesitated, then snapped, "It's none of your business anymore. I don't owe you explanations. I do what I want." That's when I realized she was trying to shut me out entirely, to control the narrative even now. But I wasn't going to let her. I told her that I'd reached my limit, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied and manipulated like this. I told her it was over. Her reaction was a mix of anger and defiance. She told me I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I was ruining everything. Her words hit me hard. How could she be so callous? How could she dismiss everything I just said like it was nothing? I felt a numbness settle inside me, a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I knew this was the end of us, not just because of what she'd done, but because I couldn't rebuild trust after something this profound. I packed a bag that night, deciding to stay somewhere else for a while. I needed space to breathe, to figure out what my next step should be. I also knew I had to protect myself emotionally. This wasn't just about infidelity, it was about a complete breakdown of honesty and respect. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay anymore. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who had secretly changed herself and lied to me every step of the way. In the quiet moments afterward, I realized I'd learned a lot from this mess. I'd learned that sometimes, the most shocking betrayals come from the people you trust the most. That honesty truly is everything, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. I also learned that no matter how much you love someone, you can't fix a relationship built on lies, especially when those lies involve your partner's body and ethics. My heart was heavy, but I knew I had to move forward, even if it meant starting over completely. Some wounds take longer to heal, and I wasn't sure I'd ever fully get over this one. but I was determined to try, for myself at least. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of reflection and healing, or at least trying to. I moved out of the house, into a small apartment nearby, and tried to piece my life back together. Every day was a challenge, thinking about what had happened, what it meant, and how I could move forward without letting this betrayal define me. The hardest part was accepting that the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been hiding a side of herself that was so far removed from anything I could have imagined. She manipulated her body, her ethics, and her honesty for some sick, selfish reason. I won't lie. There were nights I replayed everything over and over, wondering if I'd missed the signs, if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I knew I'd done all I could. Sometimes people are just broken in ways you can't fix, and I realized that trusting someone doesn't mean ignoring the red flags or dismissing your instincts. It was a brutal lesson, but one I had to learn the hard way. I had a lot of conversations with friends and family about it, trying to get some clarity. Most of them told me I'd been too trusting, too naive. That Lisa's need to manipulate and cheat was about her own issues, not mine. I also learned that sometimes people change so much that they aren't even the same person you married. That realization hurt more than anything, knowing I'd lost the woman I thought I knew and that I might never get her back. But I also found a strange sense of relief in finally letting go. I'd been carrying this weight of betrayal for too long, and it was time to face the truth and move on. I started focusing on myself, working out, reconnecting with old friends, and trying to find some peace. The process wasn't easy, and I still have days where the hurt resurfaces, but I know I'm better off without that toxic, dishonest relationship. Looking back now, I see it as a harsh but valuable lesson. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come in many forms. Sometimes it's a partner lying about an affair, and sometimes it's them lying to themselves about what they're willing to do. I learned that I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty, things I thought I'd always taken for granted. And I learned that I'm capable of surviving even the deepest heartbreak, as long as I stay true to myself. Now, I feel lighter, more cautious, but also more aware. I don't think I'll ever forget what happened, but I refuse to let it define me or poison my future. I'll move forward, perhaps a little wiser, with a clearer understanding of what I need and what I won't accept. And if someone out there is going through something similar, just know you're not alone. Trust your gut, face your truth, and don't let anyone manipulate or deceive you. The pain may be real, but so is your strength.